Tank.
Oh
I
yeah.
love
you.
that. Is that a duracer there? I love that
Yeah.
duracer. I love them.
Yeah,
Absolutely
you'd say
love
I like the
'em.
clams. I
Yeah,
tried
I
to
got
clam once, learned my lesson.
What is that, a Crocea or a
it's
Maxima?
Maxima.
Oh,
Maxima. Okay.
nice.
Trying
I,
to
Yeah, it's not staying focused on Vince.
it's not. No, it's going. It's bouncing.
Yeah, it's bouncing.
here, give me permissions, Bobby.
Okay. Make host.
Not
Okay.
that I want to see all of y'all, but you know.
Okay.
Oh,
So
did you do
then,
it to the Mac? Do it to the Mac.
I'll do it to the Mac. All right.
Yeah.
I think I need to remove host. Well, now you have okay.
Oh, okay.
You have host on this account on your on the
Uh,
Mac. So I think you need to now transfer it to the Mac.
okay. There you go.
I mean, I'm seeing it as like the main screen, but
No, every time somebody talks, they
Vince Mack is now host.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And now I broke it.
Uh-oh. Yeah, it froze up.
Okay.
That didn't take long.
All right. We're back. All right. All right. Spotlight for everyone. There you go. That should now be fixed. Now we can see better.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Oh
All
yeah.
right, everybody.
Sweet.
Is that
Okay.
Blasted Moose down there? I hate to start asking questions
Oh no,
before
yeah, it's fine. Yeah, these are
related.
Blastomusa
Related.
Raven Eyes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I love them.
That's what they're supposed to look like. I have some in my tank, but they're just shriveled little raisins.
I've had these for probably 2 years. I
Wow.
like they came in really small at work and I watched nobody buy it for a long time. It just grew big and I said, all right, you're going home.
Wow. It's got what 50 or more heads on it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Can you frag that?
Yeah.
Uh I guess I could. I haven't fragged Blastos before.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that Merletti, I mean, Merletti's got a little stalk, don't it? Just a little
I
bit of a stalk.
I'd have to look under it. It's mostly like a solid mass. I think I'd have to do a Dremel to it.
Ugh.
Because it seems like you have a healthy colony. So, man, you should frag it and sell frags of it.
Oh, I
I
would
just
take.
like growing them big.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just
It's
like big
beautiful.
ones.
Beautiful.
Hey, can't blame me for that.
Yeah.
Uh-uh.
I got a Lobo here I picked up from Aquashella.
Nice.
I got these are from Rob. I don't know if he's gonna be here tonight, but
Oh, wow.
um
Yeah.
Rob's up in Eau Claire, which is like 3 hours away, and he sent me a bunch of goodies.
I
And I
mean,
shared
those are
them.
fat.
Yeah.
Those are nice looking. Oh,
Yeah.
Tamini.
Those Lord Howe.
Yeah, these are Lords.
Just look how fat they are. I mean, those are almost feed me daddy type
And these
thing.
are, I mean, it's sitting next to, Acros. I mean, it's getting like 200
Yeah.
par easy.
They don't care. They
Yeah,
don't.
No.
it really is. It's like, feed me, Seymour.
Yeah. Look at those feeder tentacles out on it too. It's
Oh yeah.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
nice.
So do you like target feed them or
I
what?
don't do any feeding, man.
Okay. So it's just
I
Ah,
do
that's
I
always
I do phytoplankton. My culture just crashed actually, so I got to get some more. Um, but I need to get I do amino acids. So I do KZ's amino acids and they're 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I've done like acro power here and there, but I don't feed. What they get is from the fish food.
You know what they would
Let that
love
fade
though
away.
more than anything is rotifers. Get you some. You could even get frozen rotifers. Oh my God, it, Stonies love rotifers.
Yeah. These Duncans right here, they haven't grown much, but this was my first coral ever.
Wow.
This colony, it almost died. Oh, my marine beta came out. Look at that.
Yeah, he did.
yeah.
I got this from a Petco. It was like a single head. That was like 5 years ago at this point. So yeah, it hasn't grown much.
Is
Nice
that
and
that's a
green.
black leopard wrasse that keeps swimming around?
That's ornate.
Ornate. Okay, all right. Looks yeah, those are sweet. How did you
Yeah, I've
quarantine
got.
that? I know you probably quarantined it.
Oh, it was this guy was a monster, Bobby. He ate day one. I did. It was my first time doing hybrid tank transfer method,
Okay.
and so he went in with a mandarin and what else did he go with? I think the Marine Beta I did at the same time too. When he was like an inch, less than an inch. And it was easy, piece of cake. He's nice and fat. So came big, came eating day one, no problems.
Nice. Yeah, he looks really healthy.
And I got a Melanaris female in there still. She's really fat. I see the Tamini Tang. I've got a fox face that is really likes his reflection right now.
Some nice looking candy cane.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this I got from a local, and I used to. I actually had candy canes from our dear friend Flipper for pups, and
Okay.
lost those. I have some other. I have another coral that I'll show that's from him as well. I can't get rid of it. Um, here's some of our acans. These are also like my second coral, and I bought these where I now work before I even worked there, and I'm pretty happy that I've kept it alive for all these years.
Look at that current hitting that. It don't care. It
There you go.
loves it.
Good flow.
Loves it. It's like feet. It's wow. Jumping on. Oh, I love
Yeah.
Acan. So,
Here's
nice.
this is for vet. That's my tricolor Millie.
Excellent.
That's
Yeah,
working
so
out pretty well.
best growing acro that I've got. I've actually my nitrates were about 50 ppm a couple weeks ago. I let the holidays get to me, and I did lose some coral, and now things are kind of bouncing back as I've gotten them down. You can see like this guy right here is a what is it called? Reef Raft Apple Jacks, and that's like melted away. This is my other piece back there that's hanging in there. There's not really any polyp extension.
You've got a green hydrophora, it looks like, that is just massive on the other side. Is
Oh,
that is
of
that
this
hydrophora back
this
there?
guy?
I can't see it, but is it hydrophora? The green stony back there?
Which one are you talking about? This stuff
Uh,
back here?
Got it on the other side there in that back.
yeah, on the other side in the back.
That's Slime Ball Anacropora from Joe.
Oh, yeah, it looks good.
It grows like a weed. I could probably turn up the flow and probably show you too.
That's awesome.
I don't know if the camera just dipped, but let's see if I could do this.
So you said that your nitrates got up to 50 and you lost some corals, I'm assuming macros. Like, so what were your nitrates before?
Pretty high as well.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is like, there's this whole debate about, with SPS and nitrates, it's like, does it really, really bother them? And at what point, I guess I'm trying to figure out what corals did you start losing once it hit 50 ppm?
so mostly acros. I actually just sent off a aquabiomics test, I ordered it, sorry, because I was talking to a buddy, and he has what's called white pox. And if you can see on this coral, it's like Miyagi, I have these white patches. It's happened on that acro. It's happened on this green. It's actually a Bill Murray that's had it, and then coral that I've already tossed had it. And it's just these white patches on it. And I just have thought it was related to nitrate, but this way I kind of wanted to double check to make sure. So here's a upper part there, and I get little growth. So part of I was like, well, either it's that or something else. And just kind of, what are you saying? I'm just kind of isolate and see, if there's something going on more than just like nitrates and high nitrates. Because I've had this tank pretty high for a long time. It's probably sat, never much more lower than say like 30 for a while.
Wow.
So
That's why your egg cans are just popping.
that's true. They do love it. I've also been so recently I started vodka dosing, and I definitely see, a lot more polyp extension. Like on this, this is like a no name I got. This is a tabling acro, and before its pops were like nothing, and now it's like out crazy. So I definitely getting a lot better polyp extension from that as well. So I haven't tested the tank. I don't know where it's at right now. Last time I checked, it got down to 32, and that was probably a few days ago. So I don't know where it's at now. My
Now,
phosphates are never too high either.
let me ask you, kind of what size tank is this, by the way?
So this is a 60 breeder. So it's just an Aqueon 60 breeder.
Oh, okay.
So I did this was the Tenacore acrylic kind of insert that I had bought for this. And honestly, I don't love it. This is
Oh,
actually recently this is broken. So my baffle. And
oh,
that's really user error, but I didn't silicone it well or something. But I'm debating just tearing it out because I don't even run filter socks at this point. It's just kind of keeping the heater, keeping everything kind of looking neat.
yeah.
So
Okay. Well, your water is nice and clear, so you're doing, I mean,
yeah, I don't run carbon. I don't run. I was doing filter floss instead. Like I have a media cup that would just go in there,
yeah,
but I would forget to change it.
it's easy to do. Yeah, yeah.
I don't really do a whole lot for that. I only put carbon in there when I feel like it's smelly or I get a greenish yellowish tint at all. That's the only time I ever bother.
Well, it's looking really good.
So what tell us about like the tank itself, like what size tank and what lights you're running and like pumps you're, the specs, I guess.
Yeah, so 60 breeder Aqueon I got on sale. Um, I've got a Jabo SLW 30 and a 20 on this side, and then I've got a Jabo SCP 150 gyre. I had the smaller ones, and they just were too loud when they were turned up high. And these I can run a lot lower setting, so it doesn't bother me as much sound wise. Then this is just an SLW 20 on this side as well. And that works. I feel like the gyros are kind of the best answer. I haven't really loved the ice cap ones. I have that for my mixing containers, like just as loud as a Jabo one. So I would just went with these for now. And for lighting, I've got AI Hydra 52s, non-HDs, that I picked up when I first started reefing. They were like $200. I was like, oh, this is a steal. This side, the blue LEDs, one of the channels doesn't work, and I haven't fixed it. The other side looks fine. And then I've got the Quanta Mesa Blues, like 36-inch guys. And just keeping it that. I would like to upgrade. I've been really kind of looking at refis for a future
Oh,
upgrade.
wow. I'm telling you, I do, I love mine. You know, I studied about lights on the Humble Reef, and I went with the Reef Eye, and um, the colors I get in my aquarium are incredible,
Yeah, I really want to get something a little better than what I got.
and the price
Yeah,
is very
price is
good.
good.
Yeah,
I've really debated the night cruise as well, the newer ones, but I feel
those
like I
look
could just
good. Those
they
look
look good.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like I'd get a little bit more out of the refis.
Well,
Just
I think the Refi's got more technology in them. Um,
much more bluer as well.
well, you know, I turn mine all blue and just add lime, and the lime brings out this semi-daylight color, which is awesome.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, yeah, I'd like to try them. I
yeah,
definitely feel like I don't know when I'm going to do that. We're trying to start the process of getting a house, just starting the process,
oh
and
boy,
hopefully do that by next year. Um, so I'm not in a huge rush,
Yeah.
Who
No.
knows what I'll be doing then.
I'd
Um,
I'd wait till after you move because you know how when you move,
Yeah.
things get broken, and things break. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless it's lights or something. But yeah. When it comes to tanks, yeah.
yeah, I like to time it where I did this move pretty good. I moved from my previous house that I was living at and then to this apartment, and so I set up this tank and was able to move everything over within a day. So I filled it with the
Wow.
sand, got it heated, got it circulating, and then did the transfer on one day. I don't really love my tank mount for the lights. It's pretty gaudy, but it works. That's why I want to try the refis because I could replace this with just the brackets, something like that. Some other things that are running this, I do have an Apex. Um, Less important nowadays. When I had I had like a system that had a bunch of tanks plumbed in together. That was more handy. Now it's kind of a glorified outlet timer, to be honest. Um, I do have a Trident that's broken. I've been trying to fix.
My
Uh,
Apex is just a temperature probe.
yeah,
That's all my Apex is a temperature probe. But I mean, I take that back. It runs a DOS, but you know, I
yeah,
could.
I've got that. This is not clean down here at all, but I would really like to clean it up. I got too many wires, but I got a ATO here.
That's
One shot for me,
vodka.
one shot for the tank. Yep.
Yeah.
This is my calc bucket. So I dose only calc water right now. The tank just has not needed anything more than 1,300 mLs of calc. But I do have soda ash hooked up. And then this I did a DIY Ketamorpha reactor. I can't say it works really well. My nitrates are still quite high, but that might be the limitations of, float output or whatever. Um, I wouldn't say it's implemented super well. I just kind of wanted to have fun. I teed off here for this outlet here to feed that. Then this line is the return. And it's not a really high output pump, so I don't really think much goes through here, to be honest. But it grows Kato. I did my first harvest a couple weeks ago, and it was thick and lush.
Well, then
So
that means it's collecting
growing,
them, you know.
yeah. So
That's good.
more fun, I guess, to me. I do. I hate this, but I have a really closed-in apartment, so I do a CO2 scrubber. Um,
Did it
that
did
you
it
usually go ahead. Go ahead.
did it help you a lot, the CO2 scrubber?
It is noticeable. I would
Okay.
say, at least for me, it's a very high CO2 kind of apartment, and so that does make a difference by like zero point 0.2, zero point 0.3, degrees of
Oh,
pH.
that's
So
plenty. Yeah.
pretty significant.
Yeah.
Without it, it drops to like, and who knows if it's perfectly calibrated, but according to my pH probe, like 7.8. Without it, 7.7. With it, it only drops about 7.9. During the fall, it was really nice because I could really get that pH up with the windows open all the time. I do have a Falco hawkfish. That was kind of one of my
There
most
he is.
recent additions. I really like their like tassellated head. He's kind of shy. I turned the whites are pretty high right now. I don't usually run this too white.
Look how fat your trumpets are. My gosh.
Yeah, this is not
Yeah.
clean over here, but
They don't
yeah,
matter. They're fat. Look how
they're
fat
pretty
they are.
fat.
So
Now
This is
the
kind of my
coral
graveyard.
now the coral that's to the right of those, what is that? Is that high enough
This is a
for
bird's nest.
bird's nest? Okay.
Yeah, I got some STN on the bottom of it. You can see right there. Um, and that I showed up after my nitrates at 50, but it
Yeah.
hasn't progressed since I've started bringing it down, which is good.
Well, and they can grow back over that too. So
Yeah, so I'm
do
not too worried about it.
you have a skimmer
So
on the tank? Because there's no sump, right?
yeah, so I have this is like an Amazon brand IOAOI or whatever, and seems pretty good. I I can't say I love it, but it does the job. It was a pain in the butt trying to find something that fits in this section that's big enough.
Right.
So this is rated for air quote, 80 gallons is what it said. That's part of why I kind of considered knocking out the acrylic baffles and just shoving a bigger hang in the back skimmer. But if I'm only going to be here for another year, I don't know if I really care that much.
Yeah.
Make do with what I got.
Yeah,
Next,
yeah.
oh, Vince. Next
Was
year,
that?
there on that left side, just run it external. You got all that room on the floor there, right?
What was that?
Run it external. You've got that room on the floor. Yeah, that corner. Right.
This is where my jugs go.
That's where the AT.
So, yeah,
So
maybe.
that baffle, like that came with it, or you built that in that?
I bought this as a kit, so it was from Tenacore, and so
Okay.
then I just siliconed it myself
Okay.
and did all that. It's not holding as well as I thought it would a year later, but still does its job.
Yeah, place to put the skimmer and everything. I had something similar on a 150, but it was in the back, the whole back. But I just bought it like that. The whole back was kind of like that, like a big baffle behind the.
Really, really, this works great for the ATO. I got a Tunzi osmometer, and I find that it blocks out a lot of the light, so it doesn't get disrupted as much as if I had to run it like in the tank. And it's kind of an issue with some of the infrared sensors. So that works pretty nice there.
Yeah, honestly, I would just leave everything the way it is. It's doing great, and then when you move into a new house or whatever, you can. That's the time that, in my opinion, to
Yeah,
consider like upgrades and whatnot.
I do
Yeah,
have
then you go crazy.
Yeah.
I
Just
do
do all
have a
kinds of stuff.
Oh,
Eheim
because then,
heater.
then you got a house payment and you got a mortgage and you got insurance and all that to worry about.
Yeah.
I
And then
just
you can
paid
do
for
the base
mine.
sump.
What was that, Bet?
And then you can do the basement sump.
Oh
I'm telling you,
yeah.
brother. We're gonna connect every system together.
Oh, thank gosh. I love that. I I would love to have that.
So I also move on to this one.
Oh yeah, okay.
We get a twofer. I actually have a third tank. It's freshwater though. So this is a Waterbox 25 Peninsula with AI Prime on it.
Isn't that nice? Yeah, that's nice. Very nice.
This is kind of the tank I neglect carefully. Um, so I couldn't tell you what the water parameters are. I just do a water change when the corals look sad. I had a doser on it, dosing off reef, and coral started to look bad. I checked it, my alk was like 12, so I turned it off like 2 weeks ago.
Oh wow, yeah.
And the tank does not consume much. I was maybe dosing 0.5 mLs a day, so there's not much there. This is also my fiance's tank, really. So these are her clowns and her giant rocket GSP that I'll never get rid of.
Nice.
Listen, I love GSP. I know people have their issues, but in the right place, GSP is one of the prettiest corals in the ocean. In the right place.
Are those what they call naked clowns?
Yes, yeah, they're
Okay,
naked
that's what I thought.
clowns.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, I like them a lot too.
You've got one with a beautiful white spot on his gill plate. And
Yeah,
the other one's got a black spot. It's beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous.
yeah. I used to have my jerk mocha storms in here, and I got rid of them finally. They would terrorize everything. They even nipped my Chimini Tang's fins off.
Wow.
So,
So you
uh,
got some good snails going.
yeah, yeah. I got a lot of asterinas. I'm trying to get a shrimp. Um, my other tank's got a lot too. That's why I thought maybe that the asterinas were bothering my corals as well. So I was just getting that just to see.
Mostly just if you've got zoanthims, they love those.
Yeah. So you can see this is kind of the damage from that alkalinity spike.
Ah, wow, yeah.
So that this hammer, Brian or Blue Rider on the forum, he's got a piece of this. I shared it with him.
I like that.
This torch right here is supposed to be a Dragon Soul torch. This is from Rob as well, Rob B's Reef.
Mhm.
This one had a pretty sad, or not a sad story, a bad trip. So it was like a 7-head colony, and then it ended up really not taking it really well during shipping, and I lost most of it. And then this had very closed up polyps for a long time, and just recently it started to kind of extend a bit more. So I just have a bunch of mushrooms. This is really, because I work at a fish store, this tank just grows a lot of mushrooms for people who want to buy those. So I just, that's why I got a lot of mushrooms in here. It's just a nice, easy coral to give people. If somebody comes over, it's really easy. This toadstool is the other coral that I still have from Flipper for Pups.
Look at the tentacles. I mean, wow.
It's actually, it gets longer.
Oh, it
So
does.
I had this coral in the other tank, and I never had a good spot for it. So it lived in the sand for a long time, and it never really got back to its full glory. And now it's on its way. Now it's in here.
What
Um,
they call those weeping willow. Um,
yeah, it's doesn't have white polyps, so
oh,
technically it's not a weeping willow. But these will extend at least twice this long when I used to have it in its full glory.
that is awesome.
It has a tendency to grow a very long stalk, though. That's I recently had chopped it down before I moved. It was probably like 3 times this tall
Wow.
for like no reason.
And the same size head and
Yeah.
everything. Wow, that would look awkward then. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do have some rock flower anemones.
Oh, yes.
They get along great. I actually have one that lives underneath my hammer corals that doesn't really bother it too
I
bad.
like it. Don't you like how they just stay there?
Yep.
They just stay there, one
I
place.
I have this tube anemone. Really, this is going to somebody else. I haven't had them come over and grab it, but I did this in a trade for them. I have my employee, a friend employee kind of thing. It's kind of my like little apprentice. So I kind of just give her stuff. So I got firefish in here, and that's it. I did have a jawfish before in the previous tank, and when I upgraded this tank, it seems that he disappeared at some point. So not much to this tank. I do have an auto top off on this finally. I had it the entire time. I just didn't put it up for like 6 months. I don't run any media back here. It's just a heater. And then I run a filter floss. And I've got some like 3D printed filter floss holder for this part. I think the filter socks that they send you with some of these tanks, these like 2-inch guys, are absolutely pointless.
I think floss is the best thing ever. I love it.
I had an Innovative Marine 20, and it came with these like weird 2-inch socks that you couldn't clean. Hated those. So that was a worthy investment.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful little tank.
Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Mhm.
I mean, it just goes to show, I mean, you don't have to have like a big tank. I mean, anybody can, have like a smaller tank like that, and you can have that and enjoy that. And it's, minimal work, minimal effort, minimal cost.
Yeah, I bet if I did a little extra water changes in here more frequently, it'd be spectacular.
Yeah. It looks
But,
good to me.
go ahead.
I'm just saying it looks really good to me. I think it looks great.
Agree.
Let's
I've
see.
got a I've got a what is this company called? Higer.
Tiger. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a tiger.
I like these. They do pretty good until they get clogged. Then they don't work so good, but they work pretty good. I just swapped the pump. I had a weaker pump on here, but now I remember why I changed it because it's stupid loud. If you couldn't tell, I kind of care a lot about noise, um, and that's hard when I don't want to pay big money for it. Um, I had some other a knockoff, the same manufacturer of the skimmer that had a Axis AI Axis ripoff pump, like centrifugal pump, and it worked great for like 2 months, and then it started whistling, and that drove me nuts. So that went off. Get what you pay for, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I find even like, I mean, even the Echo Techs, like the MP40s and 60s, I mean, they hum, there's like even a brand new one. It's got like of course, I don't think I've ever bought one of the QDs, the quiet drive ones. So maybe those are, quieter.
Yeah. I've got another tank for you. In the freshwater world.
Nice.
That's pretty.
This one I can take the filter off. So this is just on my counter. Just a little planet tank. I maybe have a little too many fish in here for what I got, but they thrive.
Nice. What happened to your discus? Did you
Coolers
have
and pistos. Beautiful.
My discus was at my old house. They I knew I was going to be moving to an apartment, so that came down. So those I sold to a buddy who had a 270. He's really nice, beautiful tanks. Um, and then he killed him. So that was a bummer. Um,
Oh,
but yeah, I'm sure I'll do this again. I'm
yeah.
trying to highlight this fish right here. This is a sumo loach. They're from Myanmar. I just recently got those.
Nice.
I like
And
that.
then go on.
I like that one.
Yeah, there's these are pistogrammas, pistogramma borellii. I've got two. Those are a little bit more niche. There's also this is a female scarlet batis that's under the leaf right there. Those are another, I think they're from India. They're a dwarf, extremely dwarf cichlid, like less than an inch.
Are they a cichlid or an anabentoid?
Um, they're not a cichlid. Yeah, they're I don't know if it's the one that you said, but yeah, they're not a true cichlid. They're just kind of cichlid-like.
Yep.
But they're not. Is that like your like betas?
Yeah, that would be an anabentoid.
Yeah, they're not that.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't have that.
So do you quarantine your freshwater fish? You just don't worry about that with freshwater.
I would say it definitely varies. I think that um, so at work I kind of pseudo quarantine them.
Hmm.
So if they come in and show like symptoms, I'll treat them. When I had the discus tank, I certainly did. I'd run them through malachite green or Icanex, and then I would do some Prazi and Metro. So a lot of freshwater fish have internal parasites,
Okay.
and there's a hole in the head is a pretty big concern with a lot of cichlids. Angelfish, discus are pretty prone to hole in the head, so I generally treat for that. I've had yeah, like hexamida kind of ruin a lot of rams that I used to breed, so that I'm pretty vigilant about dealing with those. And that's generally it. I'm still trying to find the motivation to finish the articles I keep saying that I'm going to write uh, for freshwater. Really, I'm just kind of compiling a lot of Noga's work on that already,
Right. Yeah, I'm
and
getting
I'm trying to.
more and more
Oh,
people are like messaging me about freshwater diseases, and I'm like, it's been 20, 30 years since I've kept freshwater fish. I don't know. I mean, I just would be, going in Noga's book and just regurgitating what he's already put out there.
yeah, I wanted to have something that's some empirical based information, uh, so it doesn't. Because a lot of freshwater disease articles you read and if like Google it, it's just like whatever that person's experience is with it. It's a kind of like to me regurgitated crap.
Right, right,
So I wanted to compile somewhere that had more empirical based, evidence based treatments and research on it, just to say, hey, this is backed up by, Noga, whoever,
right.
and then this is my experience of doing those treatments or whatever. This is what I find works to kind of bridge that gap. There's a lot of diseases too that I don't know a whole lot either, so it's kind of fun for me. So I'm like, well, I never encountered this, so it's nice to learn about those.
Hmm.
Epistylus is a kind of interesting one. That one always is. Everybody thinks it's ick, and it's not. It's almost like you had bacterial tufts. all over your freshwater fish instead. And honestly, a lot of the stuff, Bobby, is pretty similar to saltwater in terms of like treatment.
Yeah, once I get settled, I'll probably set up a freshwater tank and then start quarantining those fish and just because that's how I mean I can read and read about it, but until I'm actually doing it, I don't feel comfortable writing about it, you know?
Yeah. Honestly, probably like 90% of the freshwater fish out there can handle malachite green just fine. I've never encountered a fish thus far that has an extreme sensitivity to it. Even discus doesn't matter. Wild
So
fish doesn't matter.
what does malachite green treat in the freshwater world?
Ick, freshwater velvet. Um, let's see. There's also, I think tetrahamina. It also treats for. Um, most of your major like ectoparasites. Um, Likewise, you can also use copper in freshwater. Um, and I'm kind of working with Ichthyogeek a little bit, where it's like, okay, well, if you happen to have a saltwater tank and you're familiar and you have QT supplies left over from that, here's what you can use out of that cabinet.
Right.
So it's just a little trickier because it alters the, hardness, KH, and pH of the water. It's more toxic and lower pH. So it depends on what you're doing.
Okay. Because I've had the opposite experience. I actually have done some experimentation with malachite green with saltwater fish, and it was a disaster. I mean, just a disaster. Everything died. And I couldn't figure out exactly why are saltwater fish so intolerant of malachite green, or what does it do to the water chemically that just screws everything up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
So does anyone else, looks like we got about 14 people on. Anyone else have any questions for Vince?
I do have one small question. I saw you had a goby stick his head out there.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, there's a yellow Washington goby somewhere.
yeah, he was to your left there under the rock, and he went back underneath the rock. Um,
Yeah, he loves the clam. That's his favorite
oh,
spot.
okay. As well, that's one of my favorite fish, believe it or not. And I just wanted what do you like about them?
They're just kind of neat. I don't know. They're
They
just a
do
little
have a
guy.
person. They have a personality in there. I just like their eyes. I just love their
Yeah,
eyes. Something about their eyes.
yeah, they're just just kind of cute.
Yeah, they
That's
are.
that one was an orphan. I took him in my I had an employee that stopped working there, and then I came in like he had some drama that he ended up splitting with his fiance at the time, and so the fiance's like, "Can you just take these fish away?" He said you could. I wasn't like stealing them from him, and got him out of that deal, so I gave him a home.
Hey Vince, I have a quick question. I'm just looking at your tank. It looks real nice. Where is the algae? Is there algae on these rocks? But because
Oh
you got
yeah,
like the higher nitrates, I can't see it. Maybe it's the camera, but it
there is
looks
algae,
so
but yeah,
clean.
it's pretty clean.
Yeah.
Um, I did have some cyanoblooms. Honestly, back here, this wall has the algae on it, and there is some like hair algae in the sand back there. But the rocks are
Okay.
pretty clean. The this rock over here probably has the most kind of green spot algae on it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's not a whole lot. I also don't have a lot of coralline algae in here. I have not been very proficient at growing it in this tank at all. Um,
How
I
old is
have a
the
little
tank?
bit. So the this tank in its current spot, um, I moved in last year in like March, May, and the rock though is not that old. This rock is probably at least like 3 years old, 4 years old. Most of that came from my original tank.
Okay.
Um, so it's pretty mature, even though it's not purple. So I don't
Interesting.
usually have much algae issues. I do on occasion get some brapses. Actually, maybe a few months ago, I had a pretty bad bloom of like hair algae and turf algae. And then I would go in there with a toothbrush and just remove a bunch. I have two urchins in here. I've got a Halloween urchin and I've got a tuxedo urchin. I got the rabbitfish and the tang. So amongst them, I mean, they keep it really clean. So
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I don't see any like crazy algae blooms anywhere on these rocks.
yeah,
Interesting.
for 50 ppm nitrate, yeah, you'd think
Yeah.
so. And I wonder if my chaetomorpha down below helps out a lot with that as well. Um, yeah, I get minor bubble algae. I do also have a crap ton of asterinas in here, and I think they also contribute a lot to the algae cleaning as well.
Actually, yeah, that's been my experience too. I've actually let my Asterina population just explode to take care of algae.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I hope that they're not the ones eating any of my acros, because they do such a good job being little cleaners.
Yeah, everything I've read so far, it kind of led me to believe that they're more like opportunistically, if there's nothing to eat, they'll go after potentially
Yeah,
they'll munch on
I
a
don't know if I can
unhealthy
zoom in.
flesh.
I've had a couple spots where I've tracked the movement of the starfish. I can't seem to find anything. Probably the Bill Murray back here. At the bottom, they do seem to like to snack on it, but if they're snacking on just the algae that's growing in the bare spot, or if they're actually predating on tissue, I couldn't say, for
Right.
certain. It doesn't look like it, but that's why I'm like, I don't think it is that, but I don't know for sure.
Are you talking Asterinas?
Yeah.
Because I'm not seeing them.
Um, at night, in the morning, they're everywhere. There's a couple here. There's a
Yeah,
couple
so some
there
of the on the left-hand wall there.
on the wall here.
Yeah.
They come out in droves.
Yeah. I've
They're
never
pretty
Here.
nocturnal.
seen anything harmful either. So
Yeah, so I don't know. I
Time
I
got
for
have
these nice.
shrimp, huh?
Oh, go ahead.
I think it's time for a harlequin shrimp.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I'm just may as well try it,
Yeah.
and if he eats them and the problem persists, then okay, it's fine. I can put him in the other tank, and then I can just bring him to work, and find him a new home. It's not that big of a deal.
Try to get a pair.
So,
They're really cool as a pair because the male is lazy and he sends the female out to like, bring starfish back to him.
interesting.
Yeah.
I am worried about this gentleman here eating any harlequins and the Melanaris as well.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
that's yeah. I
hopefully I
mean,
can get like a big one.
that's the thing I'm worried about too. Like, because I have a ton of Asterinas that I'm letting just kind of just breed and populate, but I've got this massive checkered wrasse that is just I know he would just kind of terminate that Harlequin shrimp in like a few days.
That's at least nice that I got that tank, because then I don't have any predators whatsoever in there. So at the very least, I can collect them when they come out and feed them in there.
Well, what's interesting, that other tank doesn't look like it has that much algae either.
You know what?
And
That boggles my brain too. For
okay,
as much as I neglect that tank, and the nitrates aren't low by any means. The last time I checked, phosphates were like zero point 0.3, nitrates were at least like 20, not too bad. I did have a small bloom of hair algae at some point, but very quickly vanished. That rock's also pretty seasoned as well.
I mean, you must have
Um,
some magic hands because even your freshwater tank that I just saw, it doesn't have any algae either, right? It's like it's really clean.
yeah, I equate that. So that tank doesn't have super intense lighting. And so I really like to set up my freshwater tanks where the intensity matches the plants and the kind of the algae growth. And so they don't really like I grow like film algae in the glass, obviously,
Yeah.
but not a significant amount there. And I don't over fertilize the tanks either, which is nice. So though that tank actually the plants are suffering a little bit in there, so I need to start doing a little bit more.
oh, don't lie.
But
You spent all last night scrubbing your rock with bristle brush.
no, I all I did before the show is I scraped the glass. I didn't even do that good of a job, and I moved the sand this patch over here from the gyre just pushes into this corner after a little bit, and that's all I did.
So
You
you
can't
never
see.
That's
you
good.
never even get like cyano on the sand or anything like that?
No, my sand. stays so clean, and I
Yeah.
barely do anything.
I would
I
not
when
touch that tank. I would not change anything about that tank.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't change anything either, man. Everything look, I mean, those clams look so nice too. This tank
yeah,
is very balanced right now.
they're loving life.
Yeah.
Yeah, my sand has never been dirty in
I
most of my
love.
tanks.
Yeah, I mean, this tank has got like it's got a beautiful personality, and it does. The whole tank has a personality. I love it. I mean, you got the Duresa out there sitting up. You've got these really fat A cans that just blow your mind fat. I'm like everybody else. It's just whatever you're doing, don't stop. Just let it go. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
Keep it
especially
simple.
especially with the sand staying nice and clean. Because I mean, when I have tanks that, nitrates are 50, 60 ppm, I start getting cyan on the sand bed, just all kind of stuff going on. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't change anything about that tank.
And honestly, it's showing more yellow than it is in person.
Well,
Like
see,
the little bits that you see.
you've got at least one conch in there. He's
Yep.
probably helping.
Yeah. He's been here for I've had him for at least 3, 4 years. I had him when I had my 120 in the previous place. That's it. I
Now, with all
these my
that, with all that being said, I'm just curious. I thought I heard you mention at the beginning of this presentation that maybe you were frustrated with the growth rate of your SPS. Is that
Yes, yeah.
what do you think that's like? What would be a factor there?
I
Like, do you
don't
think?
know.
Okay.
I think largely, and that's kind of why I'm frustrated because I feel like I've done a lot of things that people have recommended, and so these guys are sparring. It's actually kind of a new behavior. Um, so I do get growth, and I try to kind of appreciate the growth that I do get,
Mhm.
and most of it's on hardier corals. Like, I have some Miyagi tort that grows. This Joe the coral is encrusting. Even these Velitas that I just got are encrusting. I look at the tricolor million. It's like, okay, well that's going bonkers. Maybe it's not as fast as what other people's can grow it. Like Bet, his stuff just grows like weeds, but it is still trucking along. I
Bill,
mean, go on.
you can call me Bill. You don't have to call me Vet.
Oh, it's because I forgot your name.
Well, there you go, Vince.
Yeah,
I
it's
have,
really easy. My username's my name.
you know,
So
you didn't hide it behind, some obscure screen name.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I talk to you a lot. I've sent you fish.
Yep.
Got coral from you.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I got none of the stuff that you sent me last time survived.
Yeah, I think that was bad timing. It had to be.
Yeah.
What
Well,
kind
now
of
I've got space up died.
what kind of salt are you using?
For a long time, I used Ocean. Um, and I didn't really have any problem with that. I just used regular purple Instant Ocean. The Reef crystals kind of mixed up too high, and it kind of seemed like it always would spike my alkalinity, and I just wanted something that mixed up where my parameters are kept. And so I usually keep it between, like, my alkalinity is usually anywhere between 8 and 9. So recently I have switched to using Seachem's Aquavitro Salinity. And really, it's just because I have it at work and I'm
Hmm.
trying to get rid of it. Um, I actually really like the salt. It mixes up exactly where I'd like it to be. Um, it's not too expensive for me with my discount. So that's namely why I just use it, because it's a little bit better of a supposed quality of salt versus, say, just Instant Ocean. Um, I've used a lot of different salts, and inevitably I probably would just go back to Instant Ocean. But when I first started, I really liked Tropic Marin Pro. Mixed up really nicely. I like that stuff. I've used Fritz RPM. That stuff was fine too.
How
So
often are you doing water changes?
recently, I've been trying to do it probably at least 2 to 3 times a month. Um,
Okay.
regularly, I try to do at least once a month, but that just was not keeping up with the nitrate in here. And I aim to try to do once a month. That's what I would like to do. I'd rather have it a little less frequent because making it in my apartment is pretty difficult. Um,
How
just
much are you
hooking up
changing
the
by percent? Like what's the
um
percentage?
yeah, it's probably around 30%. It's I do 15 gallons, and this
Pretty good.
tank uh with displacement is probably around 50 gallons is my estimate, like 47, 50.
So you're doing
So
like it potentially you're doing 15 gallons 3 times a month. That's
yeah,
yeah, that's a lot.
yeah, it's
A lot.
uh I but that's what I was trying to do to bring the nitrates down.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Before I was doing once a month, and that was a lot easier on me. But I got away from it during the holidays, and that's when my nitrates spiked up pretty bad. But hopefully, with the carbon dosing, I might be able to reduce that a bit.
Very interesting. Yeah. And how long are you running your lights on the on this tank?
Oh, I'm not quite sure. I think um, probably not more than 12 hours. I think
Do
I
you
have it ramp up like an
oh, you have
hour.
ramp up?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
I have it
Yeah.
ramp up for an hour and a half, up and down. But then it's just full intensity after that hour and a half. And then my Quanta bars, they turn on probably an hour in and out before bedtime and before it wakes up.
And did you say you were getting like about like what 150 or 200 par at
Yeah,
the
on the top of the rocks here, I'm getting about 300, 350 in some spots. Beneath this brace, it's pretty dim.
yep, yep.
It dips down maybe like 200, 220 in that back area. The tricolor millie is getting about like 350. And then kind of this like red planet here is maybe like 300. So down at the sand bed, I'm getting probably at no little than 175, and then maybe in these corners 175 or like 75 to 100 par.
That's a good balance. Yeah, that's good. And you said you're doing ICPs? Like what was your last ICP? Like do you have any like trace element issues or anything like that? If you've
So
done
I
it?
do one about once a year. I
Okay.
have not this past year. Um, and yeah, so it wouldn't be the same because that was a completely different system before. So I
Yeah.
have not ICP tested this system itself. I do trace element dosing. When I remember, I used to, sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm bad. But I do the KZ 1, 2, 3, 4
Okay,
minus
yeah.
3 right now because that's the amino acids, and so it's like once a week you're supposed to do it. So I'm probably doing it at least 2 to 3 times a month, and it seems fine. I do feel like it has helped. I like to think that I can see that difference in some of the color. But I also think nitrates do contribute to that. So as the nitrates come down, I'll be interested to see what kind of color comes up. I'm already seeing some improvement in color from that directly.
Hmm.
Um, so that would be interesting.
Yeah, very
There's the
nice.
diamond Bobby. He's out.
Yep.
Yellow Watchman.
Yeah.
Watchman. You know, Watchman. I keep saying diamond. I don't know why.
I like Watchman gobies.
I do too. I love the look of guys. Something about them that just they got a neat personality.
What's your favorite pistol shrimp to pair?
Oh, God,
Mine's the
I,
Randalls,
I have
Randall's.
candy cane.
I have several tigers in my tank and one Randall's. Some of the gobies and shrimp are paired. Some shrimp and gobies are non-paired, and one pair of tiger shrimp is paired.
Hmm. Yeah, I
The
just saw that
other
comment
ones
that
are.
about the nice wave. I do like my surface agitation. The
Yeah,
gyre does a lot of work, so
And gyros are very good at that. Very good at giving you flow all over the tank.
yeah, I definitely noticed a a very great positive um, effect on the tank with the gyre because I had a SLW 30 and a 20 on that side before, and it is just too low of a tank. for this dimension, it's only what 16 inches high.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of blasting this area here. It's actually why I have, a gap over here because I couldn't build as close to the glass. And that was just blasting a lot of the corals too much. So you get some tissue loss, unlike say the bird's nest or something, from that hitting it. So this creates a nice gyre effect, a nice strong indirect flow.
Yeah, yeah, I love what you can do with Vijay. It does give you a lot of surface area to cover quick.
Yeah, I'd like to try. I used to have a gyre on this side too. I'd like to try again
Yeah.
with the bigger one. The problem is fitting it in this wall, in the acrylic wall, is kind of tricky.
I
And
re
so it doesn't mount perfectly.
I ran two big 350s and I did what they call alternated gyres, but I would, as one slowed down, the other one sped up type of deal.
Mhm.
And that made wonderful chaos in the tank go from one end to the other, and you could physically see it as it hit
Yeah.
each other on the top of the tank.
And your rabbitfish net and that Tomini Tang, those guys are just munching away on everything.
Oh, it's because his pump turned off. I unplugged that one.
Oh,
And so they're like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, I finally get to eat on this."
Yeah, they're taking
So
advantage of that pump being off. So what's your par like throughout the tank? I know it's most of the corals. I mean, yeah, it's pretty like you don't have a lot of high rocks. So I mean, assuming the par is similar in the middle of the tank or at the bottom of the clams. Or what is your par in this tank?
yeah, um, had just gone over that. The middle is the lowest. So with this brace here, it really cuts the light down significantly in this section. So the back top rocks over there are probably maybe getting 200. And then throughout most of the top of the rocks is about anywhere between 275 to 300. This side is brighter because it has this side, one of the LED channels is not working.
Okay.
Um, and I fixed it one time by just jiggling it all, and I need to do that again or get new lights. But they seem to not care too much. So
Okay. So about 300 in the middle, 200 on the sand bed, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
maybe like 175 in the sand bed,
Okay.
150. I mean, this clam, like the blue maxima is definitely getting at least like 250, 275. It moved itself down actually. So it used to be higher up on the rock, and then it didn't really like that par, so it moved itself down. Um, and then this clam is just rocking. It doesn't care. It doesn't care at all. I've had this. This is my first clam that I ever had, and it when I had it in the frag tank at work, it was in like 75 par, and it still grew. It just grows faster now. It's higher light. Um, so I probably got it. If I could point it when it was like that much growth. So it's probably had at least like an inch and a half of shell growth.
Okay.
wow. Wow.
It's probably what 2 years old, I think.
Nice. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's
I
huge.
had to recently rescape the tank a few months ago just to accommodate his girth. So he was kind of tucked in this corner and not too happy about it. And so now he gets to be the star of the show.
And this is all with Kalkwasser and the KZ elements.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I just recently had started the KZ. I did the CChem trace before.
Okay.
That's what I was using, but switched to KZ after talking to. I got sold on it by a coral farmer buddy that I go to get frags from, and I was like, well, trying to mimic what he was having success with his frags, and I was like, well, I'm getting most of them from you, and I'm not getting the color that I wanted to see. Let me just try what you're having. It was on sale, and I was like, if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I'll just switch to something else. And I'd probably switch to the isolate, the captivate trace, just because it's cheaper and more cost effective. The KZ products are not cheap.
Yeah.
I do have Aptasia starting to take root in here. And for most of my reefing career, my tanks did not have Aptasia. And so I finally got it. So
Yeah.
They say it comes to everybody. That's what they were
Yeah.
telling me, that no matter who you are, it's going to happen. Just be ready for it.
I started adding coral from people that had it in their tanks, like very obviously. So I'm pretty sure
Uh,
it's from that point that I started getting it. Because previously I only got coral from like myself, or I rarely added a lot of coral anyways. I did have a coral quarantine in my previous place. Now I don't. So I'm sure at some point it's finally said, all right, it's time. So I try to knock it back here and there when I find it, but it's getting there. I'd love to have a butterfly in here.
Yeah, he
Yes,
would
even with
love
the
to be in
clams.
there. He would love to be in there too.
Yeah, I really actually probably not for this tank, um, but I really like the row ups butterflies.
Yeah.
Those guys are really cool. So
I mean, you could try
definitely
a
one day.
pyramid or a schooling heniacus, but even those are with clams are kind of iffy, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I had a multi-brain angel. Some of you might have been following that. Unfortunately, did pass away. Um, Sucks having a wild one, but it is what it is. That was kind of, I have a flame angel at work that I've been thinking about, but I don't know. I don't trust him. I feel like he's
Regret it
gonna
with
go after this clan. What was that, Bill?
You'll regret it with the clam.
Yeah, I know. And then I'd probably have to move all these these nice blastos and the
Oh yeah.
Lobo and the A-cans. Yeah, I'm sure I'd have to do that.
They
But
certainly wouldn't be as fluffy as they are now.
no, and I do like having the nice pop extension. So I don't know if I could live with that, but I definitely stare at it every day and think about it.
You actually have like the best fish combination, for the corals you're growing. Cause I mean, you got a Tamini tang to help with the algae. And I know you said you had bubble algae. So you got the rabbit fish and you got those wrasses, which aren't going to mess with anything. And actually I think the Melanara should like eat like pyramid snails or anything like that. So, I mean, yeah, you've kind of got like the perfect fish stocking list for that tank. And I think if you try to add a butterfly or an angel, it's not going to end well.
That was kind of the goal. I really wanted to have a nice crew. That's what I wanted. And so, I did get rid of some fish when I downsized, but largely, that's great utilitarian setup. The leopard would eat pyramid snails and, any flatworms that I may have, melanars too. So probably just going to keep it the way it is, not change too much and just save for the nice big tank.
Just when you move, just set up a big fowler and you can have whatever you want. My rule is like, when I do angels and butterflies, I'll do corals, but it's corals I don't care about. It'll be like Xenia and GSP and stuff that if they eat it, they eat it, you know?
Yeah, I definitely have been thinking about that, of just doing like a softy tank, or, even if it's just like GSP or whatever, it's still coral. It's still cool.
Yeah, and I mean, usually, I mean, especially if you have a lot of fish and it's a dirty tank, I mean, the coral growth, I mean, they can't eat enough of the corals. I mean, they may pick at it or whatever, but if it's like, especially if it's like Anthalia or any kind of invasive soft corals, they're going to continue to spread faster than the fish can eat them usually. So it's like you're still going to have, some corals left. It's just not what most people would want.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I'd like. I like a lot of angelfish and butterflies, and I'd really like to set up a display that's more focused for that, and just kind of put coral in that will live in that environment.
I've found that in the past, my flame angels they'll nip here and there, but as long as a coral is healthy, they'll pretty much leave it alone. Once coral gets sick and starts to be in decline, they'll tear it apart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty convinced my flame angel was actively eating the mantle on my Durasa clam. So, I mean, there was of it missing. So,
The only clams in my tank are the ones that I hang clams on the half shell,
yeah.
fish to eat.
Yeah.
That's the problem with all these anecdotes. You ask two different people, you'll get two different answers when it comes
Oh.
to angels. So really, Genocanthus is the only thing that's safe because they're pelagic. Everything else is gonna eat anything benthic. So especially your favorite coral.
Even with the same fish, two different people can have two different fish with different personalities that behave differently.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
Clams are kind of like, it just seems like clams are just too tempting. I mean, where you can maybe do like LPS and whatever with like angels, it seems like, or butterflies, is if you add a clam to it, it's like, oh no, the clam's getting eaten. They like clam too much.
Yeah, I'm wondering if at a certain size they care less. I don't know. That's my pet theory.
I wouldn't try it just because I do use clams as a food item.
It's like I use clams to get my picky angels going. So I could never picture trying to put one in there with it.
Yep, that's too much to ask.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a little too much temptation.
That was for probably 3 or 4 months. That was the only thing my copper band would eat.
Yep. Yeah, they're a pain. I know someone who actually had a copper band that I think it was the same deal. It was just only eating clams. I think it went on for like a year before it finally started to eat something like PE mysis or whatever in the water column. But I mean, he tried like everything because, it's a pain in the butt and expensive always buying clams for this fish, but it's all the thing would eat for like the first year.
Yep. And the nice thing about, clams, what I'll do, I buy little neck clams and I freeze them, thaw it out in the morning. And when you thaw them out, they start to open up just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll put that in an algae clip and just hang it mid-water and let the fish kind of chase it around. And because it's open just a little bit, the copper band can get at it before anybody else can really tear it apart.
That's a good strategy, Bruce. Yeah.
I worked with this copper band. It didn't work with the 4 that came before it.
No, but that's a good idea to, just like let them open it up, that way the copper band can get its snout in there before,
Yep.
your other fish, like the ones that are more aggressive eaters,
Yeah, now, the copper band still gets a share, but the emperor gets the lion's share.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're aggressive. Yeah, copper bands are like the cats of the fish world. Finicky, sometimes only eat one thing, it's just how they are.
I've had that emperor since she was a 2-inch thumbprint. Now she's about 8 or 10 inches.
Oh wow. Yeah, they're beautiful. You know what's weird about a copper band? A copper band is so finicky, but you can go get a long nose, which is to me just as reef safe as a copper band, and that thing will eat flake food. I mean, I've actually had long nose butterflies that will eat nori. They eat everything, but a copper band,
You seem to be a little more and so iconic that HW Marine Mix used them as a logo. Did I just date myself? Will they eat the Aptasia the way the copper bands sometimes do?
That I don't know. So the reason I got interested in long nose butterflies is I was having trouble, like, getting copper bands when I was selling quarantine fish through quarantine. So I'm like, well, what if I would get a long nose and house it with the copper band, and hopefully the copper band would learn from the long nose to eat. Fishy see, fishy do. And it actually worked pretty well. So then basically I have all these long-nosed butterflies that would, I'd move through quarantine and put them in retail. Nobody wanted to buy them because, they're not a copper band. They're just a long nose. Even though they seem like the copper band and the long nose got along really well when I'd pair them together. I'm like, well, I'll sell them as a pair. Just nobody wanted the long-nosed butterfly. But yeah, I don't know. I would suspect they do, but I don't have enough experience with them in display tanks to know if they'll eat Aptasia or not, at least not in reefs.
Yeah. I like them. I think they're a beautiful fish.
Oh yeah.
I
They're
love longnose
tougher
too.
than a copperband too.
I had one in my reef not too long ago in my previous tank, but it had passed away after I had an ick outbreak. And I had taken all my fish out, and he just did not do well.
But just lately, I've been looking at my tank and saying, you know what? I have enough big fish in here.
So Bruce, when are you gonna do Tank Tour Tuesday?
I really should do, and I probably can figure out how to keep these guys up past their bedtime.
Okay.
Being on the East Coast, my lights usually start to go out around 5:30, 6:30. So I would be, as you can see by the obsidian wall behind me. But yeah, I would definitely, because there's a story to tell here, I think,
Okay.
even though it hasn't always been a happy story.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you on when Reef to Reef trying to get those
Boys,
the parrotfish.
yeah,
Yeah, that was
boys parrotfish.
yes, yep.
I
I
have one
love one of
now.
those.
I have one now that so far is the fattest, healthiest boys I've ever seen.
Nice. Vince, maybe what we need to do is do a tank tour Saturday and do it like a Saturday afternoon or morning or something, to accommodate, the light schedule or something,
Yeah, you'd
Sadly,
have to do that yourself.
Oh, okay.
that,
Yeah, I work on the weekends.
Okay.
sadly, that doesn't work as well as you would think. I'm retired from the job that I do during the week,
Okay.
but not from the one that I do on the weekends at the public aquarium.
Ah, gotcha. All right. Well, I'm just trying to figure out a way we can, fit your tank into the rotation, into the schedule.
No, I'll keep these guys up past their bedtime one night.
Okay. That should work.
And by the way, the public for what it's worth, the public aquarium, which used to mix their own salt from 20 different primary ingredients, they now use Fritz.
Wow. So they're able to get it, I guess, at a good enough price that it makes it.
I would assume so because they got a lot of water.
Wow. Yeah, most public aquariums I know they make their own salt. They don't buy brand salt. They make their own. So like you said, 20 different ingredients, and they got a guy that's just what he does.
I thought a lot of public aquariums just didn't do a lot of water changes. Like they just took care of it with like sulfur denitrators and just dosed like I think I remember watching some talk that the gentleman doing the Georgia aquarium, their reef tank, they don't do water changes in or something.
I'm not terribly surprised. I can't imagine what it would cost to do a water change on Ocean Voyager.
Oh,
But yeah, they used to do like a 20% water change every week to 2 weeks. But it would be sort of a cascade water change. So they would mix the seawater, pump that into the open ocean tank, 110,000 gallon open ocean tank, and then excess water from open ocean tank would go out into other tanks on the system. So they use the water twice.
oh yeah.
The smart ones are the ones that they have a facility. They have a facility right there by, like there's one in some in Florida. They're right there by the ocean, and they just use recirculated ocean water and just have either micron filters or a UV or something plumbed in to control pathogens. But that's the most economical thing to do.
I know Coney Island in New York got their start that way. I don't know if they still pump water. They used to have a pipe that opened up about 2 miles out or some such.
Yep. Yeah. If you go Yeah, if you go to like Okaloosa Island, Florida, on the Panhandle, like I forget the name of the public aquarium there, but yeah, they've got you can actually see like on the beach, you can actually see the drainage, like going back out, and they actually like go about 2 miles out, and I mean that's all the water just comes in from that. The only problem is when they have red tide, they have to shut everything off. You know,
Yeah.
on a closed system when red tide comes, but that's other than that, that's what they do.
Yep.
So there
Scripts.
was an earlier thing that I was interested in circling back to. John in the chat, I think he's still here, said he had some issues with white spots on his torts. I was wondering if you could share more information about that.
Yeah, I'm still here. I just turned off the camera. Can you guys hear me?
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I had an issue about 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And funny enough, it was at the time when I also had a parrotfish, a koi. So I kind of started to think maybe he was picking at the corals. But after kind of watching the tank, and I noticed that it was starting to affect some areas of the coral where the fish wasn't really getting into. Um, I've kind of decided that it wasn't that fish. So then I just kept watching the corals, and it kind of progressed. It was like I said in the chat, it was mainly affected like the smoother skin torts. I'm not sure what corals it affected in your tanks, but it just started it appeared like very small little white spots, maybe like less than a centimeter round. And then I would just kind of see more and more spots appear on the corals. And then eventually I started seeing it affect some of the chalices where the flesh would start to kind of peel a little bit from the skeleton. And again, it would kind of appear like in chunks. It wasn't like a recession, it was just like a random spot on the coral. So after doing some research and kind of racking my brain as to what it could have been, I came across a thread that was having similar issues like I was having. I don't know, I have to kind of dig it up. It was on Reef to Reef. I don't know exactly what the dosages were, but I did treatment with Cipro, and I mean, as far as I could tell, that seems to kind of stop the progression of the spots, and then kind of they started to just kind of regrow. That was kind of my experience. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said a chalice because I had a really large Space Invader chalice in the front, and that did exactly what you were describing. It's on my frag rack, but it
Yeah, so
shot.
that's why I kind of didn't think anymore that it was a fish issue because uh it started with the SPS, which I thought the fish was nipping, but then it started to kind of progress towards like the chalices. I lost some pectinias. It even started to make one of the scolies die back. So it kind of started affecting more types of coral. So that's when I kind of just bit the bullet and did that Cipro treatment, and it seems like that kind of whatever it was, bacterial, viral. I'm not sure what it was, but that kind of seemed like
Gotcha.
that stopped what was going on in the tank.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm really curious to see what the aquabiomics test says. I'd love if it was totally clear, but if there's something that I'd be nice to know before I like move, try to take care of it before that, or if I need to reset the tank in some way when I start a new one.
Yep.
So when you say, John, you did the Cipro treatment, is that what is the dosage? Is that like the 1.2, the thing that Aquabiomics recommends that's done 3 times?
I'm not sure because it was before I knew about aquabiomics.
Okay.
I have like a 200. At that time it was like a 200-ish gallon system, and I know that I used like a 500 milligram pill, to treat the whole tank at once. And I think I did multiple. It's similar to like the red bug treatments. It's like a 500 milligram pill or something. You just dissolve it. So I don't exactly know what the dosages was, but
Okay. I'm always curious to know just how much Cipro corals and inverts will tolerate.
I did do a Cipro treatment on my old system, and I didn't have any fish in it at the time, but didn't bother the clams, didn't bother nothing.
yeah, that's what I found too. Nothing really. I don't even think it bothered any of the inverts, the snails or shrimp or anything.
Yeah, I had like brown jelly disease going through my torches, so that's why I dosed it, and then I actually found that it negatively affected bryopsis. Like all my bryopsis just started dying, which was great. Not intended, but it was interesting to me.
Yeah, that's a nice coincidence, isn't it? You found a way
Yeah.
to rid biopsis. That's really nice.
Yeah. People, I know people like, people abuse Cipro, right? That's one of the big arguments about it because, they're just using it willy-nilly. But the thing about ciprofloxacin is such a broad spectrum antibiotic. I mean, it works so well. I mean, I know I kind of started using it because, a doctor friend of mine said, yeah, Cipro's, covers like anything and everything just about. And I had a Vibrio infection, like kind of tear through my retail system one time. And that's when I started doing the Cipro baths. And I mean, it stopped it. And it's the only antibiotic I've ever, found that would stop, like Vibrio species, bacterial infections. I know probably enrofloxacin would work as well because it's a derivative, but I mean, it's such a great antibiotic that it's like if you do, because I'm helping somebody right now that actually has, seems like Vibrio just tearing through her DT right now and it's just killing fish. And I'm like, I mean, she can't quarantine. I'm like, Cipro or enrofloxacin. That's the only thing I can think to recommend to try and stop it.
Yeah, I definitely felt pretty guilty after using it. I tried to do as much as I could. I quarantined the torches, and then I did Cipro treatments in the quarantine tank, and then would bleach anything that came out of there, in terms of like water changes or whatnot.
Right.
And so I was trying not to do it in the DT environment. Try to do it so it was like sterile QT, like it had not been running. It was bleach cleaned beforehand.
Right.
Um, and then just after I put them into the tank, that's actually how I lost parts of Rob's torch. I like saved it in the QT tank and then put it into the display, and then it started melting along with everything else. So at that point, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to do this to try to stop that. And it
Right.
worked.
Someone else, there was someone I thought that asked a question or yeah. I mean, but you know what? I wouldn't feel guilty using Cipro. I mean, they make a big deal about it, but it actually, even if you're using it in a sterile tank, it doesn't really last in the water that long, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I had UV too, so I
Okay.
chucked it on there afterwards. So I'm sure it degraded really rapidly afterwards.
Yeah, carbon will remove it, UV will remove it. If you just do that, I mean, you're not, whatever you're dumping, I mean, feel really guilty about it, just go dump it in the yard instead of you don't want to put it down the water,
Yeah,
water supply.
I'm sure it's a drop in the ocean
Right,
compared
it
to
is. Yeah.
everything else, but still try to do your little due diligence, I
Oh,
guess,
yeah.
for me.
I mean,
I
when
think the
people,
bigger issues when the larger chains of
Yeah,
custody are using it prophylactically when it's not needed, because then they arguably are creating superbugs that make their way down to the consumer level. But once it's at the consumer level, I mean, I haven't heard a compelling argument yet on how it's so terrible. Because I mean, it's not like us at the hobby level are creating superbugs and then taking those and giving them out to other people or something. It'd still be contained in your system for all intents and purposes to live and die, cradle to grave. So
No, until you do a water change and flush it down the toilet.
I mean, I guess so, but in that sense, I mean, a lot of that stuff, well, that's making some broad assumptions, but I would say a lot of the stuff that's marine is tends to not be compatible with freshwater. But obviously bacteria is a whole different ball game, and yeah, you're right. I mean, there's something to be said on that.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, usually it's not compatible with freshwater environments. But sometimes it is. And that's the panic. That's what people are terrified of. And obviously we're niche. We're not we're not going to be the primary cause of anything.
That's my take on it. I mean, like, I can understand when people throw a rock at, say, like Tidal Gardens or any of the larger farming operations, or even really it'd be the ones bigger than that. But, because, yeah, they could be arguably cooking superbugs and then mass disseminating that out across the industry. We're a very small player, I think, in the grand scheme of things. That's my opinion.
Right. Probably wholesalers are the worst offenders because when they have a problem, they just start throwing stuff at it and seeing what will stop it. I mean, whether it's copper, their favorite new thing now is peroxide, of course. Now they're dosing peroxide every day in their tanks. What that's going to do eventually. But yeah,
Bobby, I can tell it when it's like I get an order and I'm like, wow, these guys just seem like they've already been through some shit.
Oh yeah.
Or it's like
Yeah.
it's like, okay, these guys have sat in copper or something,
Oh
like
yeah.
they
You
seem
guys
pretty affected.
know Fish Tank Row, or Wholesalers Row out in California. You got at the time I went, it was you had sea dwelling exotic imports, and they were just lined Pacific Island imports. They were all just lined right up the same road, and um, the amount of stuff that they would do at sea dwelling was incredible. The different things that they would try it was just, and again, all that got flushed too. I mean, it was insane.
Oh, they do.
Anything they can do to keep them alive till they get to
Yeah.
your door.
They did everything they could, and I mean, quality data. A it was a revolving door of experiments.
Yeah, they almost all of them. Well, it depends. I mean, almost all of them are using copper, not at therapeutic, but sub-therapeutic to keep egg and velvet under control, but not to suppress appetite so much. And a lot of them, what they do is once a week they've got it where they'll dose formalin in the tanks. They'll dose Prazi in the tanks. Now, sometimes they'll start using antibiotics if they think they've got Vibrio or something ripping through the system. And now some of them are doing the peroxide thing, which, I mean, it's, yeah, their whole thing is keep these things alive long enough to move them down the supply chain. That's the nature of the beast. So they will do whatever it takes to accomplish that.
Long enough to swap them for dollars.
I mean, it's been years since cyanide was a big problem. Now I'd say just a very, very, very few fish are have been around cyanide, but back in the day in the Philippines, I mean, they just and the fish would be fine, and then all of a sudden people would get them home and boom, gone.
I think you might be surprised how many fish are still caught even today.
Yeah.
Cyanide.
Oh,
Especially
I probably
Indonesia.
would.
Yeah, they've just changed regions. That's all. I mean,
Yeah.
Indonesia is like really bad now. And
Well,
then not only that, certain species, like especially you get these cryptic angels like golden angelfish and stuff like that. Basically, there's no viable way to catch these things. without using it. So it's almost like you're more likely than not to get
Yeah,
Right.
a
Yeah.
that's
fish that's contaminated with that crap.
because
So
that stuff's nasty. It really is nasty for fish. Just
well, even with the Philippines, so like, okay, so basically sometime in the 90s, Congress passed a bill basically allocating funds to go to the Philippines to help, like, and the money was supposed to go to combat, catching fish with cyanide. And that, but you know how things go. That went on for years and years and years. But sometime in the early 2000s, that money ran out and they didn't renew the funding. So basically, they were supposedly using that money to police, cyanide poisoning. Well, that money ran out. So what are the people going to do? I mean, the cyanide police are no longer out and about, so they just go back to doing what works easiest for them to catch these fish and send them to the wholesalers or whatever. So
yeah, that's a scary thought. I mean, and you guys are right. So I've been out of the loop for many years. I was out in 2005, but the fact that I guess that's a rabbit hole. I mean, if a place can use it, they can use it. So
it's actually amazing to me that as many fish make it as they do when you actually consider the cyanide, they use to catch the fish. And if you've ever been over there where you see the collection stations, I mean, some of those are just awful. I mean, not all of them. I mean, there are some good ones, but some of them are just awful. The cramped conditions and the poor water quality. And then if you've ever seen how fish are shipped, Vince can probably tell you coming, especially if you do direct importing, like they'll put them in just like a little tiny bit of water, because
yeah,
everything is weight, right, with shipping. So they'll just in a tiny, tiny bit of water. Most of them, more than likely, they've been, exposed to ammonia along the way, very low oxygen. I mean, how do they even make it in that? But they've got it just enough where they know how, enough. It's like there's one wholesaler I know that they'll order from a certain part of the world and they know they're going to have a 60% DOA rate. 60% of those fish are going to be dead in that box before they even get them into their tanks.
wow,
But they still make enough money off of that 40% to justify continuing to order from those collectors.
yeah,
Money, you know?
yeah, and it
And
just
that's kind of the ugly truth of our hobby is really like it's really hard to shoot your way out of that type of problem because I mean we're all willfully complicit to engaging in that industry, whether we like it or not. Unless you're buying 100% aquacultured stuff, and it's why we get all these issues on the forums with biota and stuff, and I get all riled up too with it because yeah, they got their problems as well, but honestly, that's the only future this industry really has because at some point like there is an ethical question to be had like when a significant portion of these animals are being pulled out of the wild and most of them aren't even making it to their final destinations, and the ones that do, half of them are either perishing from disease or just lack of understanding of care. And pick a thing, it's like it's kind of a weird hobby. The people that actually care the most are actually probably a small percentage, I'd say.
I would really love to see more hobbyist breeding and making attempts. Like I feel like in the freshwater world, a lot of the hobby subsists off of a lot of freshwater breeders too.
they do that.
Rather rare.
That's big, isn't it? I was yeah. As I remember, even though I don't have freshwater, I'm a member of a freshwater club, and they some of those guys, that's all they do for rely on breeding,
Yeah.
especially the big discus guys. I mean, they are all about that. It's
And the clubs foster it too. The local freshwater club here has a breeders award program. You breed such and such a fish, you write an article for their newsletter, you bring a couple of bags with a half dozen fry in them that you produce, that you've raised to uh, a saleable size. You bring those bags in for the auction and you get a set amount of points toward the Breeders' Award program.
oh, it's cool.
My My club does that as well.
Yeah, which is, I mean, and it's terrific, and it's very encouraging to see these people breeding some fish that in some cases are endangered in the wild. But there is a tremendous amount of difference between breeding a pair of swordtails or mbuna and breeding a pair of regal angelfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like there's definitely room for hobbyists to do the lower hanging fruit, like
Yeah.
gobies,
I know a few
basslets.
people are doing clowns.
Yeah. Like I'd
It's
love to
like
do
the one
clowns.
Biota's what is it, the marine betas they sell. I think those are from a place called My Eco Reef Solutions,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken it. But I want to say I've seen that guy's tank before, and I mean it's just like I remember seeing it. I'm like, wait, that's the tank that all these fish are, because you'd see it and you wouldn't think it's like an operation in the least. It's like a dude in his home with a tank.
Yeah. And that's the other problem, is that when that dude in his home with a tank stops doing it, nobody will be doing it.
Wasn't
Yeah.
it, I'm trying to think, the guy that was breeding the marine betas, wasn't he like on the forums? I'm trying to remember what his
Yeah.
username
I don't know
Yeah,
his
his name
username
was like
is.
Beta something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My marine beta is actually from him too. So mine was a captive bred biota one that's like
Ah.
came like half an inch big.
now.
Yeah, they're all small.
Can I get something clarified? A marine beta is it a type of grouper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Kind of
Makes
similar to a basslet.
a
Yeah.
biaslet. Okay.
Yeah.
but they're not like, I don't even think they eat. Do they eat inverts, Vince?
I believe they
I
can.
think it can, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that.
But they may not. I think they get used to a certain food. That's the problem with the wild caught. Like mine was hard to get eating. Like that was actually my first hard fish. Like I got it and it didn't eat forever. Like because they just want live prey, I think, when you first get a wild caught one. And eventually it took the pellets, but yeah, he doesn't bother other things. But I have read that some of the larger ones, wild caught, will predate smaller fish and smaller inverts on occasion.
That
I'm
makes
not
sense.
surprised. That's what they're built for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I'd love to see more like knowledge sharing too. Like I think like I haven't really looked too much into if the marine beta guy has really shared a lot of his information, but I think that, in freshwater, everybody shares information about how to breed it, and I think there might be a little bit, oh, I'm not going to say my secrets for how to do this or that, because I want to maintain business in this area or whatever. I think some of that does exist as well, It's probably the reason we don't see a lot of that information everywhere.
Yeah, I think
At
that,
least for him, he. Sorry, go ahead.
no, no, no. I was just gonna say, I think like when it comes to clownfish breeding, which is so oversaturated anyway, then yeah, people are more than happy to share information. But some of these other fish that there's fewer people breeding them, yeah, people don't really want to share that because they're wanting to make money. Now go ahead, Lee.
No, I was gonna say I think he's made quite a few posts. I don't think they were on Humblefish forums. They were somewhere else. He had some husbandry stuff on there, but I'm sure there was some tricks to the trade that he keeps to himself. If I was just to speculate, but he's had. I think from some of the posts I've seen that he gets really into the weeds about the behaviors, the spawning patterns, all that kind of stuff. It may have been on Reef to Reef, but he did post something out there somewhere that I don't know. You could probably take some educated guesses and maybe even ask him. I mean, but yeah, I think you're right. A lot of these people probably, if they figure out some secret recipe to success, they're going to try to cook it themselves.
Oh, for sure.
Which is fine, but and this is the sort of thing that's happened in the aviculture, the bird hobby as well. somebody's working with a species, they're breeding them successfully, they're the only people who are, and when they stop, that species very quickly becomes lost to the hobby. You can't get them.
I
I
can
think
believe
there
that.
isn't. I swear I heard earlier this month saw something where there was some breeder who had a certain kind of rare marine angelfish, were they bandits maybe or something, and they had stopped breeding, and so he was selling them, and that was kind of sad to read.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
They were selling the breeding collection.
They were, I don't remember the exact angelfish. They cut it one of those rare kind of angelfish
Yeah. Yeah.
that I think it was like a bandit like the Hawaiian one.
Yep.
And maybe they bred from and then they stopped, and they hadn't bred in like a year or two or whatever, and I think he was trying to sell it. But like something like that, I know that there's been a couple species like that saltwater too, where you can't get those fish anymore, and the pair that existed dried up.
Yeah. Yep. That's become something of a fear of mine, that you got somebody who's captive breeding something, that's terrific. But when that person stops, who takes over?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a few authors that might have tried their hand at some of that. I just recently acquired gosh, what's that dang book that uh we just posted it on the forum the other day. The guy that passed away like 7, 8 years ago. Can't remember his name off the head.
Fenner?
Yes, thank you. I want to say there's a pretty big section in that book that has to do, but it's probably a lot of just general knowledge. And it seems to me, I don't know a lot about the breeding, but a lot of the challenges are, I guess, unique to each species. I mean, they have to be, otherwise, it seems like a universal pattern would just fit the mold for all of them. That doesn't seem to be the case, though, I guess.
Yeah, I think you'll find a lot of similarity between, say, flame angelfish and majestic angelfish, but there'll be some differences too, some tweaks that they just have to be in place.
Yeah, environmental or tank size or lighting, something like
Yep. These
more
these
behavioral
fish
factors.
these fish have evolved to the vast environment that they're from. Their larvae are intended not to be on the same reef as their parents. Quarter-mile down current.
I say we start a fish breeding operation.
I'm in, Bobby. Let's go.
I think it would be a lot of fun. It might be just about as successful as fish quarantining.
Yeah.
That's true. But that's kind of like, freshwater breeding to me is just fun.
It is fun.
Like,
Well,
yes, it can be economically viable, but to some degree, it's like it can thrive in its own fun way.
I got a warehouse. It's empty.
There we go. We could do that. I've
Just
only
come-
I've only bred clownfish, and it was a long, long time ago, and it was so much work. I mean, it was just well, back then, I guess, they probably do it differently now, but man, it was so much work.
Yeah.
Keeping that, the water changes and keeping the tank clean, and you got the rotifers and all this other stuff, and God, it was so much work. And then, like, when I was all done, I couldn't even sell them. Nobody, well, and you have to keep them for so long until they get large enough where you can
you
actually,
know.
yeah.
Well, now it's like Matt at SA. You just now the breeding consists of lots lots of rotifers you growing yourself, lots of phyto for the rotifers, and lots of fritz to restart aquariums constantly,
Yeah.
and mollies everywhere, just mollies. I mean, to keep those tanks going. But I don't think I've ever seen so much the Fritz 9,000 or whatever it's called, turbo start. I don't think I've ever seen that much in my life.
Yeah, if I get one more tank and then another tank to grow rotifers and Fido and another tank, my wife's gonna divorce my ass. So
yeah, it's
Yeah, they don't get it. They don't understand, the obsession. It's like, why do you spend so much time talking about this and whatnot? And like, well, it's just what I do.
I like it. I like it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a like like tonight. Just the fact that I learned about that marine beta, which is something most people probably already knew. I just didn't. I didn't even. I never researched the marine beta. I love their color, but
Yeah, they're nice fish, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the unfortunate thing is that a lot of those things are just not super economically viable. So if there's not money, the larger operations just don't bother.
Right.
Yeah, and in most cases, you're competing with wild caught economic.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Right.
And then
Biota,
try convince.
lucky,
Yep.
they started producing yellow tangs, and not long after that, Hawaii shut down.
boy, did
And now
they
Biota can write their own ticket.
and they did. They
And they
did.
did, and very successfully.
Yeah.
And
I-
that funded a lot of their further efforts.
Well, I I wanted a yellow tank. You know, mom, she's 85 years old. Our dream fish was a yellow tank. Yeah, simple fish, but not so simple anymore. You have to get it from and
Yep.
then and that's what I did. And thank goodness that they had one because um it's just years ago you couldn't have thought about a yellow tank in Brett. I mean, it was unheard of.
Yeah, exactly. Growing up in this hobby, marine fish come from the wild.
Yeah, yeah.
This captive breeding of marine fish is what, 5 years old, maybe? From the first hippos and yellows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aside from clownfish have been captive bred for a while, but
And I think Bruce, you kind of hit the nail on the head about the yellow tanks. I mean, yeah, Biota sells a lot more than just yellow tanks, but that's their bread and butter. They probably make so much money just selling just yellow tanks that the rest of it, I mean, yes, they're making money, but not like with the yellow tanks because I mean, every LFS you go into has yellow tanks, and they have to come from Biota.
yep,
Now they do. I mean, yeah. And so when you can corner a market without intending on cornering the market, that was not their intent. I mean, it
yeah,
just fell into their lap.
they definitely stepped in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My yellow tang is a captive bred tang, but she was one of the last ones before Hawaii shut down. So I paid a slight premium for the fish, but I didn't pay $300.
That's
And
ridiculous.
Hawaii shut down, and gee, we can charge what we want.
Yeah, and they do.
And if you don't want to pay what we're charging, get a Scopus.
Yeah.
Well, I paid $199 and I was happy as I was just totally happy.
Yeah, because that's your mom's fish.
Yeah.
And you know, she at that age she should have the fish she wants.
Oh, she got it. Yeah, she got it.
I can remember yellow tangs. This is like 80s. They were like $10. That's what yellow tangs sold for. Well, of course, wild caught $10 back in the 80s.
I can believe that.
I'm gonna date myself of being very young here, but I feel when I entered the hobby, there was no wild yellow tangs, and so for me, like they're not. It doesn't matter to me. Like I kind of feel pretty neutral about it all because like,
Yeah.
oh well, yellow tangs have always been that expensive, and they always just look that way. And if I don't want to pay that much, I just buy a Scopus or something. You know,
Yeah.
buy a different tang.
And honestly, they are such a beautiful fish that they can take being pretty expensive.
Mhm.
Like, an unattractive fish, a boring fish that's not going to eat algae for you, all things that yellow tangs are not. You can't charge that much money for it. But for something as beautiful as a yellow tang that will also mow down hair algae, like team of landscapers.
Yeah, I mean that's been the biggest thing I've noticed is he does not stop. And something else I've caught him eating are the when the when those little tiny nudibranchs on the one colony that I have, the zoanthid nudibranchs, he will eat those. I see him do it.
Nice.
He eats the real tiny ones. So it's been,
Yeah, that's a bonus.
yeah, he's and I was like, this came right. So I watched. I sat in here uh after 36 hours of watching him go do whatever. I finally saw him because I spotted the nudibranch, and I'm talking these guys. These nudibranchs are so tiny, pinhead tiny, but you can see them. They got color on them, but you can tell what they are. He comes by, pow, eats it, goes on. Does not spit it out, swallows it.
So do
That's
the
pretty bad.
captive bred yellows, I mean, for those of you who have like actually, they're actually now mature or whatever, are they as vibrant as the wild caught, the
Yeah,
Hawaiian? Because
especially the white on the tail is how that beautiful, the being a surgeon fish, the white spikes they have on their tail, that they were as vibrant as those in Hawaii. Mine is that, when you look at a Hawaiian yellow tang, that white just sticks out. It just and the yellow is really vibrant. And yeah, this guy he's just like that.
That's the
Mine's not. Mine's pale yellow.
Okay, he's pale. I've heard different things. Mine
Yep,
is vibrant
you're
yellow.
right. Pale. Biota says he'll color up. It never did. We adopted a wild caught one from the guy we bought our tank from that had it a while, and it was like just golden yellow, like the color of a lemon or something. And the one we've got now, it ended up passing away, but the one we've got now, it's like I don't know, it's
I've
like the
read
flesh
that.
color of the lemon, cut
I've
thin.
read
It's
that.
pale.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've read that. Now, mine's golden. It's which I can't believe, but it's beautiful.
yeah,
I
yellow.
think it's a crapshoot because I've read people say both ways with the biotas. I think I don't. It might be a genetics thing. I don't think it's a diet thing because my stuff gets snorry and all that other crap. I think that some of them just get better lineage from the parents. I'm just swinging here, but just based on what I've read from other people on forums, because some people have the biotas that color up nicely and some don't.
Yeah, I think it is a crapshoot. That's
Yeah,
exactly what it is.
because every yellow tang I've ever seen, biota yellow tang I've ever seen in an LFS. I mean, don't get me wrong, some are better than others, but they're all kind of bleachy looking. They're all kind of faded looking. And if you like a Hawaiian yellow tang, I mean, like I said, it almost looks orange. It's like a bright, vibrant yellow, and it's got those brown, super brown eyes. And I have not yet to see a biota yellow tang that looks like that.
I need to take a picture of mine. He's
my yellow tang is bright clear yellow. It's not almost orange, but it's a bright clear yellow. Where it does differ is in what you just brought up, Matthew, that the white tang
Yeah.
at the base of the tail on my yellow is like a nub.
Yeah. Okay.
It's tiny. She still thinks she's got it back there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She will still trade swats with the other tangs,
Yeah.
but she's unarmed.
Mine's huge. Hers are, for her size, they're massive. And she's I wasn't aware how aggressive these guys could get. She is the dominant in that tank. She thinks she's her and the two clownfish, they swim together constantly everywhere. They go to sleep in the same spot. They go to eat in the same spot. They all come in as juveniles. And um uh she's got to it's got to be some kind of relationship with these things. She defends that area of the tank. Like if I put a feeding prod down in there or whatever, to suck up something, she attacks it. I mean, just bang, bang, bang. And the clowns also attack it. Um, it's the neatest relationship I've seen. Clowns and a tang. I think she thinks she's the clownfish.
There are some fish like that with some interspecies relationships where they're just buds.
They are. These are buds. I mean, and they're inseparable. They
My-
sleep in the same hole.
My emperor angel and purple tang will feed side by side, never give each other a bit of a hard. Let anybody else get close to the food.
Yeah. I love that. That's a fish. That's a fish right there. The emperor angel. But what a fish.
Yeah, she's a beauty.
They are amazing.
She is absolutely a beauty. She's kind of a beast,
Yeah.
constantly roaring at the other fish in the tank.
Yeah.
Absolute lord of the realm.
Are there any
Bruce,
corals or
you
is it a fowler, Bruce?
Was that?
You're with the emperor. Are the corals in with it?
Yeah. There are some corals that I wouldn't dare. So that those beautiful acans and blastos that you've got, Vince, I would not trust. I would not trust this. And any kind of zoanthid. Put a zoanthid in the tank. Thank you for the snack.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Bruce, you said earlier yours was 2 inches or so when you first got it, right?
Yeah.
Did you get yours from biota? Was it a captive bred, or did you just happen to get a small juvenile wild caught?
No, I got a small little juvenile wild caught. I had a tremendous colony of the ugliest brown Mahanos in my tank, and it was just no other way around it. I was going to have to hire somebody to clean them out. So I got the emperor and a Klein's butterfly, and the Klein's butterfly ate Mahanos like nobody's business, but then proceeded to eat every coral I put in the tank.
Wow.
Nice.
Or everything mushrooms.
So I got a question then for your emperor at least. Did yours develop HLLE?
No,
Interesting.
no. I use carbon in the tank, but I use the Roxo 8 or Rox 0.8, whatever it is.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. No, I've been batting around some theories on some stuff, and so that doesn't really feed my theory bias. So disregard.
No worries. This is how we learn stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I've got one as well. He's pretty big too by this point. It's almost fully transitioned in color, but mine definitely developed it. I got a biota and was talking to the LFS, and we were discussing the imperators, and the topic came up that a lot of people that he's been talking to that have gotten them have developed HLLE from biota, which I just started doing some research, and it sounds like from some of the books I've read that that particular angel is extra prone to HLLE. And I've got this wild thing where I'm like trying to figure out the true cause, right? You know, because there's all the wild theories, diet, grounding, all that crap. But yeah, it sounded like one of the commonalities, the threads between some of the stuff that I've been observing is that some of the HLLE is being observed in fish that start in captivity as a small juvenile specimen and then grow out in the tank as opposed to having a little more size. But obviously, stories like yours punch a huge hole in that theory. So I'll
They,
keep
they,
looking.
they punch a hole. I also tend to pretty heavily overfeed my fish.
Likewise.
And
I mean, I have some in my system. I'll have two tangs. I'll have a gem tang and a sailfin. Same, one will get the HLLE, the other doesn't have a touch of it. So it's super bizarre. Yeah.
and there's both zebrosomas, which are certainly prone enough to it.
Yep. And the only thing I've been able to identify, at least in my system, is the ones that seem to develop it are biota small fish that I've gotten, or I bought like really, really small species and grew them out in the tank. Whereas sometimes I've gotten maybe a little bit larger of a fish, like 3, 4, 5 inches already, and almost never do they get HLLE if I get them that size.
Yeah.
So just a random observation.
Yeah, no, I doubt this one was 3 inches when I got it. It was fully juvenile coloration.
I've got to bow out, guys. Thank you so much for tonight.
Yeah, guys, I was thinking it's time maybe to wrap this up. We've been at
That's good to see you.
about 2 hours, but
Good to see you guys. Have
yeah,
a good night.
good to see you all. Thank you all for joining, and yeah, let's do this again next month, and let's just keep talking.
Yeah. You guys have a good night.
Well, have fun. Vince, thank you for sharing your tanks with us.
Yeah, Vince,
very welcome.
thanks.
Yes, thank you, Vince. Thank you very much. Thank you. Also, thank you for everything you do on the forum.
You're welcome, Bobby. Keeps
Have
me
a good one,
occupied.
guys.
All right. Good night, everyone.
All right, good night.